Fat. Comix Fat.
So 2019 has turned out to be a wonderful year in film. Not only have we seen a record number of moviegoers hit the theaters, as was demonstrated with a record number of billion-dollar films this year, we've also seen a rise in quality of these films, with a lot of people going to watch these movies and thinking how good they are, because a lot of these movies were good. Sure, there were those stinkers and those films that really just failed to meet expectations. And if you want, you go ahead and check out my previous video on what I consider to be the 5 worst films of the year. But now we've come to the point where I'm coming out with my list for what I believe are the 5 best films of the year. Now, first, let me go ahead and preface this by saying, again, this is my opinion. This is what I think are my favorite, my best films of the year. It's my opinion again, so people are gonna have varying degrees of thoughts on how much they like the film, how much they dislike the film. Their list may be different. If you look at other lists from other YouTubers or so on, theirs will probably be different as well. So if you have any thoughts on it, go ahead and share your comments down below, your thoughts on what you consider to be the best, or even what you consider to be the worst, or, if you think I'm just wrong on this, or if you think I'm right, just, share comments down below on that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into my number 5 film of the year, and that is Martin Scorsese's The Irishman. Now, this film, a lot of people may not have seen because it was out in limited release in certain theaters in New York and LA, and there was this whole hoopla going around with how they were going to go ahead and distribute it. But now it's on Netflix after that short release in theaters, and you could watch it right now. And it's 3.5 hours long, but the good thing about it is so well paced, it doesn't even feel like it's 3.5 hours long because of how good the movie is. The acting's great, of course, the directing's great. It stars Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, and Al Pacino. It's about the murders and disappearance of Jimmy Hoffa, and a lot of people might think, oh, this is another Scorsese mob film, and to an extent it is, but I think it's even more than that. I think Scorsese is, once again, at his best here, and I mean, this movie is really, really good, and I think a lot of people would enjoy it. If you go ahead and go watch it on your Netflix right now, 3.5 hours, you could take a break in between, that's fine, but it's that good. You should watch it. Now, let's go ahead and jump into my number 4 film, and that is another great director, Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Now, just like a lot of Tarantino films, this film takes historical events and sort of bends them, and Quentin Tarantino does this little thing to it where it slightly changes it around to suit his movie, and it ends up working out pretty good. Yeah, it's not historically accurate, but it's really, really good. Great acting by Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt. Tarantino does a great job, once again, as being a great storyteller, filmmaker, and you could see in a lot of his movies, he has that style where you could watch, if you put a Tarantino film up, take away the credits, and don't let anybody know who it's from, they'll watch it and you just know that's a Tarantino film because he has that unique style, the way he uses imageries, tropes, themes that you just know he uses all the times in his other films. So I loved it. Margot Robbie, again, she was great in it too, though she was in it for only a little bit. She had a small role, but she was pretty good in it, So that's a great movie. That's my number 4 on the list. So let's go ahead, jump into my number 3 film, and that is Us. Now, just like these other previous directors, Jordan Peele has sort of distinguished himself with a specific style of social commentary, being able to put out these films that have a lot to do with us, with our society today, with race or social status and class. So it really makes us think. We watch the movie and we see it's sort of the themes within it, and even the stuff that's kind of right on the nose that really makes you think, and it's supposed to be provocative. It's supposed to push buttons that, you know, either trigger people or make people have these conversations about, you know, what's going on. What are we doing with ourselves, with other people, you know, with the lower class, with the upper class, and that relationship that we have. It's pretty well done. It's really well written. There are some parts in it that I think, you know, maybe a little too uneven, maybe a little paced a little off, but overall, it's a really great film. The message, the way the movie flows, I love it. So that's my number 3 film of the year. Now for my number 2 film, I got to go ahead and sort of go the nostalgic route into a film that I grew up loving. And I guess this is sort of the live action remake, and that's Aladdin. Disney doing the live action Aladdin film. And in a really weird choice, this film is directed by Guy Ritchie, somebody you really don't associate with a Disney movie. So that was weird to know that he was chosen for this film. But it's really, really anchored well by great performances by Will Smith as a genie and Naomi Scott as Princess Jasmine. Now, the guy who played Aladdin, Mina Masood, he was good. He did a really good job, especially like on the singing, on his little action parts. But he wasn't, though he was a title character, he wasn't the main character. He wasn't the one who carried this movie through. It was Naomi Scott's Jasmine and, of course, the awesome Will Smith, who, if you really look at it, did a really great job in not trying to imitate Robin Williams' genie, but more make his own style, his own version of the genie, which he said he kind of based it off his Fresh Prince persona, which is pretty fun to see if, you know, you grew up watching the Fresh Prince and stuff. So, you know, this was a great movie. It was awesome. Of course, it took me back to when I was younger, growing up and watching the, you know, animated movie. So there was some differences in between them, but I think they knocked this one out the park. And for me, it was the best Disney film of the year, bar none. So now, before we go ahead and get to our number 1, let's go ahead and take a look at what I consider to be my honorable mentions. Now, these are films that just missed the cut and that I think they could be on anybody's top 5 list or anybody's top list because these movies were great in their own right. But for me, they're just outside of my top 5 and will definitely be in my top 10. So first, let's go ahead and get Sam Mendes' World War I film, 1917. This movie was really, really good. The pacing of it was great. It was one where it took part in World War I, and these 2 soldiers had to go behind them enemy lines, deliver a message to help save the Allies. And when you think about it, it seems almost like a movie that might seem too long or might be a little boring, but the way Sam Mendes kept the tension going through and the certain obstacles these 2 guys had to overcome seemingly at every turn, it was really good, high tense, and as a war film, as a period piece, you know, it works out well. It's probably one of my favorite war films, not just World War I, but any war films. It's definitely up there on the list. It's got to be. It's really, really good. Sam Mendes does a great job here, and it's definitely on my list on honorable mentions. Next on my list, let's go ahead and take a look at Parasite, South Korean movie from Bong Joon-ho, if I am pronouncing that right. Great South Korean filmmaker. He's responsible for the 2 highest grossing South Korean films of all time. He's that good. He did Snowpiercer with Chris Evans a couple years ago. He's a really great filmmaker over there, and we've been able to see his work now with this movie Parasite, which is incredibly great. And it sort of makes me think of like Jordan Peele, where he has this movie Parasite about this relationship between these 2 families of different classes, of a lower class, of a higher class, a relationship, how they relate to each other, and essentially how your class status and the things you go through and how you see life can affect your choices in life and doing certain things. And the way this film plays out, again, really high tense, sort of like a horror drama and thriller, and it just works out really well. You watch it, you're gonna love it. A lot of people don't like to see foreign films because of subtitles, but trust me, you're gonna love this. This is really, really good. This is probably one of my favorite, South Korean or Asian films outside of, like, Train to Busan, which that itself is probably one of my favorite films from that area. So that's another honorable mention. And my final film on my honorable mentions is Ford v Ferrari from James Mangold, starring Matt Damon and Christian Bale. So it's pretty cool to see good actors, a really good director, in this historical film that has to do with Carroll Shelby and Ford coming together to build a car and race it in the 24-hour Le Mans in France. And it's really, really good. I didn't really know much of, overall, I'm not really like a car person. So it was really cool to see how this all came together in real life in the 60s, on how the American car company went ahead and won this, prestigious European racing event. So it's a really good movie, great story behind it, great acting. Christian Bale, Matt Damon, at the top of the game here, great actors, and they do a really good job with a really good script. And it's a really great movie. You're gonna watch it, you're gonna love it. I'm sure car people will really, really love this movie as well. So those are my honorable mentions that just missed the cut. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get to my number one film of the year. And for those of you who know me, you probably already know what it is and what's gonna be. And for me, there really is no competition when it comes to this film. And that is Todd Phillips' Joker. Joaquin Phoenix, I said when I saw this movie and in my review, you go ahead and book your ticket because you are gonna win. And you should win the Academy Award for Best Actor with this movie. Todd Phillips, you're gonna get nominated. There's no way you don't get snubbed. There's no way you get snubbed here for the Academy Award for Best Director because you do an amazing job here. Joaquin Phoenix, you are gonna be the best actor. I know I predicted this last year with Rami Malek and Bohemian Rhapsody. When I came out that movie, I was like, you know what? He's gonna win. I said in my review and he won. I feel even more strongly about it in this film with this performance by Joaquin Phoenix. Now, the Joker, we know, based on the DC Comics villain, probably the most famous and the best villain of all time in fiction. The Joker, Batman's arch nemesis. And here, Todd Phillips gives us a more grounded, grittier, definitely rated R version of the origin of this character. And a lot of people don't really know the origin of the Joker, but we give him one here. And that's been this whole thing in the comics where the Joker, his origin, how he came to be the Joker, kind of has always been up in the air. There's been different versions, different theories on how he became the Joker. But here we get a solid one for this specific film, and it works out well. Again, this one has to do, again, with society, with how we treat people, with the way we overcome certain things in our lives and have to deal with certain things, and nature over nurture, stuff like a lot of themes, a lot of tropes in here. This turns out to be a really great film. Writing was great. The acting was incredible. Cinematography, oh my god, I don't know how this doesn't win that award either. This movie has everything that you need, and it's the first movie I've seen, comic book movie, because remember, this is still a DC Comics movie. This is the only movie I've seen that can actually go up and battle Dark Knight, the award-winning Dark Knight film, which is still considered to be the gold standard when it comes to comic book films. And this is right up there. That's how good this is. We haven't seen a movie this good in a long time since then. So again, let me know your comments about this all in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you.
Comix, right? Comix fat.